Today, I sat down with Brett Kaiser of Remax. He's a realtor with plenty of knowledge and experience with 1031 exchanges. We go over everything from how he helps his clients save money on taxes to then achieving their real estate goals. So let's dive right into it. So Brett, the first question I have for you are, how familiar are you with 1031 exchanges, and what role do they play in your business as a realtor?
So yeah, very familiar with 1031 exchanges. As far as the role of my business, they're always coming up with an investor, right? So it's if somebody does have a property and they're selling it, that's pretty much one of the first things we're talking about is have you considered a 1031 exchange? Are you doing a 1031 exchange? And what's your knowledge? I want to fill in those knowledge gaps if they don't have it, and if they do, great. And what they're looking to accomplish. So
Right.
so yes, definitely use them on the investment side heavily.
So in those clients that aren't familiar with it and you're starting to bring it up to them, what ways can that 1031 exchange be valuable? How's a 1031 exchange a valuable tool for your client? Having this, especially if they don't know about it, right? You're starting to bring the subject up and they're like, oh, wait a minute, that's possible? Mm-hmm. So how's that kind of come into play there?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of people, they don't realize it's possible. A lot of people think, well, I got to pay taxes. It is what it is. Especially people on their first investment property, right? Because it just hasn't been in their purview before. And so it's, oh, wait, okay. Because a lot of people have seen, especially over the last, since 2008, 2009, I guess, with the market run being so long, a lot of people have equity, in their houses, and it's a significant amount of equity. So if you've bought an investment house, you have that, and you go, okay, I'm ready to cash out, not realizing that you don't have to necessarily pay taxes on that. So a lot of people, for the people that don't know about it, it's really an eye-opening experience of, wait a minute, okay, I don't have to pay taxes, now how does this look? And it's an eye-opening experience on the other side too, where people go, oh my gosh, I have to pay how much taxes on it? Because like we were talking about before, it's not only just on the capital gains on it, but it's also recapturing the depreciation on that, and then going into your tax bracket. If somebody's a high earner, that's really going to be a big hit for them. So,
or if they've done one over the years and now they're this new basis here, they know that it's coming. 1031 is deferring that capital gains. They've been able to do that over the course of the years, and so they want to continue that deferral on that basis. And
right. So if they know about
constantly trying to reinvest in other properties, leveraging the 1031 to diversify their portfolio as much as they can, to minimize their risk across real estate with that. So, no, that's great. And especially too, I'm sure you had clients who've inherited property, mm-hmm. and they're holding it. There's renters in it. They've inherited from their family, and then they're at the point where they're trying to sell, and they just never really thought about, whoa, what's going to happen here? Do I want to stay in that that landlord business, side of real estate, and maybe go to another property or so forth along those lines, right? So.
Right, exactly. And you're right as well too, so when they have a significant amount of equity in there, like you said, basically not having all your ducks and or all your eggs in one basket, is maybe taking that one property and turning it into three, right? So if you have, simple example, 150,000 in equity, you can take, re-leverage yourself up and get three properties, put 50,000 on each one,
right.
And then spreading your eggs over that, and then redoing it again, paying down that loan that you had, increasing the equity in all of them. So yes.
Or you see it where they've gotten to this one price point that they're only going to rent to certain people at a certain price, and now you're limiting your market to be able to rent, who you're going to rent to. Mm-hmm. And so does that jeopardize their return, right? If I could take that and diversify down to three smaller properties, I've now probably opened up my rental ability of who I'm going to rent to and increase my return that I could possibly get along those lines.
That's exactly right, because right now it's interesting. The rental market, has gotten a little softer, but what's interesting is there's a bottom, right? So there, for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, right? It's not going to go in Sarasota below a certain number, right? So yes, by taking that equity on the other properties, your ROI, return on investment, is going to go up, right? Because that it's not proportional. It just hits that kind of that bottom area, whether that's 12, 13, 1400. It's always going to be around there. You're not really getting below that 1,000 in Sarah. So sure, in other areas you do, but so yes, by diversifying that, your overall return on investment can increase greatly. Yeah.
Right, no. So, as a realtor, how important is for you to have someone like a qualified intermediary as a resource? I know you reach out, whether it's personally or for your clients, or you've referred clients over. So talk to me a little bit about how important it is. As a realtor, you have we call it, all these tools in your tool belt, whether it's a mortgage originator, a bank, and, the help, a home inspector, a roofer, having all these tools, this book of referrals that you can also give to your clients there. So how's a qualified intermediary playing into that?
Well, so number one, obviously you have to have a qualified intermediary to do it. So it's 100% necessary. But number two, it's better coming from the horse's mouth, right? So, I know enough to be dangerous about it, but you're the expert, right?
Right.
So, and you'll be able to speak with it with authority as to, hey, this is how we're able to do it. And a lot of the nuances that I don't, right? So it's, again, a lot of people, they go, oh, okay, the light bulb clicks on in their head when they're talking to you. Oh, I didn't realize that, or I didn't realize I could do that, or I can save the money, or wow, this makes more sense, right? It's just kind of, they know it might be out there. So having a QI and having a QI that's able to break it down for them is invaluable, right? Because they have to have one. Right. And so not only that, but then it gives them that comfort level as well. So having a good qualified intermediary that knows what they're doing is invaluable.
Yeah, no, completely agree, because in the end, you as a realtor, it's just enough to identify. We always say identify the situation to know, right? Is this an investment property? Is it not? What's their long-term goal for that investment property? And if so, it should be a 1031 to try to maximize the tax savings on that. And so, I do appreciate, all that and how that comes in. And, that's why you should just, having a qualified intermediary, it's someone that you can leverage onto to then talk about the process. That's what we're here for, to talk the process, walk them through the process, walk them through their scenario, all the nuances that you mentioned that are involved with it, and setting it up in the way to go with it along those lines there. So, great. So what would you say, another question, what would you say are some of the common misconceptions some of your clients might have about 1031? Whether it's good or bad, what are some of those misconceptions they might have out there?
Yeah, so I would say, a lot of people, when it comes to taxes, nobody likes to pay taxes, right? So some people think, well, I got to pay taxes. That's all
At
there is.
some point, right?
Well, yeah, at some point. So they go, I might as well pay them now. But, that's not the case, because if you're paying taxes right now and you're in your earning years, it's going to be different if you're not, right? If you're in retirement. So the tax situation is going to be different, later on. And then that's not necessarily true either, that you're going to have to pay taxes eventually. Like the example I was talking about before, with if you do take some of these properties, maybe that are, for smaller cash flow, and put them into a bigger property, right? So maybe you're buying that $1 million place wherever, or $2 million place, and you're selling your portfolio of 3, 4, 5 houses to accomplish that $1 to $2 million place, and you're making it into an Airbnb and using it, as the luxury retreat. Well, then you're not having to pay those taxes, right? And maybe you do pass it down to your kids, and they have a stepped up basis or whatever, So that the common misconception is, well, I might as well just pay the taxes now. Right. It is a misconception, because, well, no, you don't have to pay the taxes now, and it's not going to be the same now as it is later. And yes, they're deferred, but not necessarily.
Right. There's ways through the stepped up basis, if something happens later down the line, that it does get eliminated in the proper context.
Right. And just to echo on to that, so there is, what I did on one of my properties was an opportunity zone. So down the line, you can actually wash it through an opportunity zone at the end of everything. Say you have that $2 million place, you can take that sale, put it in an opportunity zone, and then in 10 years, it's a little more complicated. But so you might never have to really realize those taxes either.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, as a realtor, we know it's a very competitive market, right? Whether it's here in Sarasota, Manatee, whether it's in North Carolina, California, wherever, right? Real estate's it's a competitive market as a realtor, right? There's so many out there, right?
Yes.
So, how does having a 1031 exchange option, qualified intermediary as a resource, how does that help you stand out in that competitive market?
Well, I guess, and that's you're exactly right. In Sarasota, Manatee County, RAISM, Real Estate Association of Sarasota, Manatee County, there was, I think there was like 5,300 or 5,500 people that sold a property last year, within that. So yes, there's a ton of competition out there, right? So yeah, and again, there's excellent realtors out there, and there's horrible realtors out there. Everything in between. The barriers to entry to become a realtor are very low. It's no secret, right? So yes, being able to differentiate yourself with saying, "Hey, I know about this," right, is a huge differentiating factor. So it's basically for me to get that messaging out is very important. Of saying, "Hey, work with me. I know what I'm doing," versus working with your cousin who just got his real estate license to have it and doesn't know anything, right? So yes, a ton of competition. So be careful if you are using your cousin or mother-in-law or whoever, right? I'm sure they're great, and it might make Thanksgiving dinner a little more awkward if you don't use them. But if you do want to know more about and not get caught in a situation that could potentially hurt you, i.e. missing deadlines or not having the right information and having to realize that taxes, or a whole multitude of missteps that you could take, yes, find a realtor that knows what they're doing.
Awesome. No. So I guess when referring a client to a qualified intermediary, whether for such as ourselves, what qualities or expertise do you look for, in that qualified intermediary for your client?
Yeah, so as far as obviously the QI, number one, needs to know what they're doing, right? Have some experience doing it, and number two, being able to communicate that, right? So, kind of the bedside manner, so to speak, right? So if somebody's not able to communicate how it works, make people feel comfortable, about the process, it's going to be paralysis by analysis, right? They're going to shut down, right? So that doesn't help me if the client shuts down, right? It needs to, hey, because I consider myself an information broker, right? So it's if I can get the client as much information where they feel comfortable and they go, that light bulb pops on, that helps me, right? So it's extremely important. That's what I'm looking for in a QI is that ability to communicate to the client what they need to know, right? And
Holding their hand through the process too.
Hold their hand,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Because it can be a very complicated process to some extent, depending on how the 1031 is structured. But I think it's definitely holding their hand, talking them through the process, constantly being available to answer any questions that come along the way. People selling property, houses, it's one of the largest investments that they make in their lifetime, and so they want to make sure it's proper, it's done, that they're doing things the right way to maximize the value of those properties that they're doing.
Right, the confidence factor, yeah. Right. So being able, so somebody that a client has confidence that you're doing, because the client doesn't need to know every single thing. Of course, you can explain it to them if they want to, but it's having the confidence that, hey, I'm in good hands, right? And I trust you, and it's going to happen the way it needs to happen. And so, yes, that's vital to the process.
So as a realtor, how have you seen a 1031 exchange benefit investors, whether it's your investor or investor that, someone that you've read about, or, maybe it's someone that's in also that you work with, they're looking to upgrade their portfolio or enter new markets. So how have you seen the 1031 help them out?
Sure. So, it's no secret that Sarasota has become expensive compared to what we were before, right? I mean, even the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of, mostly everything is almost doubled, right, in price. So, I know a lot of people that say, hey, Brett, there's other areas that are more affordable. I want to cash out the equity I have because Sarasota has done very, very well. Sarasota, Manatee County have done very well. And so, I can get, instead of the duplex I have here, if I sell it here, I can get a quadplex somewhere else, right? And again, a like-kind exchange, but you're having more diversity, you're having more rents, you're able to make more money, right, off of that, like I was talking about before. So, yes.
The ability to diversify across asset classes and across a geographic location is huge, right?
Yeah.
So whether it is coming from Sarasota, Manatee, going down to Port Charlotte or Naples or wherever the case may be, or
Probably
even
not
going across
Naples,
state line,
yeah.
or
Correct.
going up to Georgia,
Yeah.
being able to find land and so forth. So
That's right. Yeah, and some people do want to accomplish that. Like, hey, I've always had the dream of having 10 acres or 20
Right.
acres or whatever, and wow, I have this place that I never thought would be worth what it is now. Wow, let's transfer this over. So yeah, it's really having being able to accomplish or realize those dreams that people have had by these rentals that they just go, oh, I was just I had 2 or 3 or 4 of them. Wow, look what I can do now.
Right.
So.
No, that's good. So, how has working on 1031 exchanges enhanced your relationship with clients, or how's obviously investors? So, has it led to repeat business along those lines?
Yeah, I guess the relationships. Yeah, it's another thing too that it's hey, a lot of people go Brett, because I've done it myself, right? So it's hey, I've been in the thick of it and have cut my teeth on it, so to speak, and so it's really helped me out to be able to do that and say, hey, I get your dream. I'm trying to live it too, right? Of doing all of these things, of starting with one property, getting 2 properties or 3 properties, and then diversifying, getting bigger, and realizing what you want to do. And again, like we're talking about, it doesn't have to necessarily be in Sarasota, Manatee County. Maybe you want to have that place. There's a guy that I had that wanted to get the ski vacation place in Colorado, right? And he was able to do that, right? He had some smaller stuff, but equity increased, and hey, everything adds up, right? So it's, I guess, getting that trust is easier once you do it and you have the same dream as them.
Yeah.
Right.
So, obviously you've worked on 1031s. You've obviously, have clients who do 1031s. What would you tell a realtor, whether it's in your office or that new realtor just getting into the business, right? What would you tell them if they were hesitant about recommending a 1031 exchange to their clients? Like, is it because they probably don't know, they're afraid that they don't understand enough of it? What would you kind of recommend to that new realtor or that realtor who doesn't have that breadth of knowledge?
Sure, like you talked about the tool in the tool belt, right? So, and there's a million different tools, and I'm always looking for the next tool and this, that, and the other because, like I said, competition. There's
it's going to differentiate you from the next person.
Differentiate yourself, and so I feel like a lot of people and a lot of realtors being, you're running your own business, right? So you're able to run it however you want, and so a lot of times people don't, realtors, especially that new realtor, you don't talk about what you don't know about, right? So they're, might be afraid, hey, I don't know about it. What if they ask me about it? I'm just going to avoid it, right? When it really is a vital part of the tool belt because you have so many people. I mean, I'm a native to Sarasota, and that's like a rare bird, right? It's like everybody is moving in here, right? There's a lot of investment here. 90% of the calls that I get from buyers, they're not from the area, right? And they're looking for that beach condo, or they're looking for that that house on the golf course. They're looking for that second house, that investment house, whatever it is, right? So that new realtor, I would say, hey, it's vital to know about this because if you don't have this tool in your tool belt, you're missing out. You're not properly servicing the client.
Right? I think it's also helping to build that relationship, right? It's being a realtor. It's a relationship business, right? So it's building that relationship, knowing that you're offering so much more than just buying and selling a house to them, right? It's making their dream come true, building that generational wealth through real estate that a lot of people look at along those lines there. So, and I would think, too, it's to say, hey, if you don't know, reach out to Ryan. ask them all the questions in the world. We're here to help you. That's what we take pride in, is whether it's a question, one question, or whether we just want to sit down for an hour and just talk about it, or I come in and do a class or something like that. It's educating yourself so that you can recognize it. You don't need to know the nuances. It's just learning about it and understanding, hey, this is something that's available to my clients to utilize that can benefit them tremendously in that regard. So awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing I always say, with people, they ask me all types of stuff, legal advice and this, that. Hey, I'm not a lawyer, right? It's the same thing with the 1031 exchange. Hey, I know enough to be dangerous, but talk to Ryan.
Yeah,
so absolutely.
No, I appreciate, the conversation here, Brett. Appreciate your time talking about your experience as a realtor and how the 1031 plays into that. Any last comments or anything you'd like to tell anyone?
Yeah, I mean, as far as when choosing a realtor, you want to have the person that knows the most about, I guess, what you're able to do. And so 1031 is a big part of that, of what you're able to do, and the ramifications of that. But also speaking to that new realtor, yes, it's vital to have the team behind you, right? So the right people. And everybody always asks, so I have a trifold of people that I recommend. You're in there, and so it's because everybody there's so many things to go on with a house, right? I mean, not the logistics of the roof, the AC, the plumbing, everything, right? So it's having those people, right? Having the people that you know and trust, because if you have the wrong people or you don't have the people, you can't, those contractors, the professionals, you're not going to be successful, right? And your clients aren't going to be happy, and they're not going to be as successful. So it's getting the right people together that you have in order to run a successful business to help your clients, right? So I'm proud to say you guys are, in that category of people that I work with that I know will help my clients.
No, I appreciate that, and again, appreciate your time, joining us here, telling us a little bit about your story and how we can, truly benefit, your clients from that. So appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Yeah,
absolutely. And that right there wraps up our conversation with Brett at Remax. If you have any questions about 1031 exchange, don't hesitate to reach out and give us a call.